This is an emergency broadcast. We have a national emergency with global implications on our hands. The madness flowing out of the Chicago depositions is causing Nigeria irreparable damage over and above whatever the politicians and the courts do. Nigeria is on trial on the global stage, and the purpose of this broadcast is to call our attention to what the issues are beyond the matter before the Supreme Court, the matter of mandate and electoral malfeasances. That the registrar of the Chicago State University will describe forgery as a Nigerian thing. It tells so much on us. It's going to shut doors across vast distances for Nigerians that are running from the hell their country has become, young Nigerians, because already we see universities slowing down, suspending further processing of Nigerian students, because it is now assumed there's something that is being imputed to us: forgery, fraud, drug. So for us to have elected somebody with the kind of records that are in their hands as our president, at a time we already had a reputation for doing all kinds of wrong things. So this incident has now brought all of us to where there is proof in the hands of our traducers that we are, full of fraud, full of forgeries, full of drugs, and all of that. Remember, I think it was some World Cup, it was in USA 94, some football event where the organizers say, oh, Nigerians are that they were excited to have Nigerians come with their energies and everything and their drug. Is that kind of a thing? So there's some kind of reputation that have been inflicted on us by a few who go to do the wrong things, and now we have a situation where somebody who has the kind of record that is coming out from those depositions has become our president. Ninas is challenging everybody that has ever been described as Nigeria, especially at this time, to rise up from the slumber and the distraction caused by the altercations amongst the political actors, to realizing that there is something that we owe ourselves. What is it we have to do now as our response, as a country, as a people? What shall be our response to the international community? What is it we will do to repudiate that charge? What is it we'll do to tell the world that we are not that forgery is not a Nigerian thing? Because if we do nothing, then they are right. If one with such a record has become our president, how did he become our president? They will think we elected him. Now, forgery, fraud, identity theft, these are all the things that are dangling over our head as a people. If somebody talked about drug long time ago, USA 1994, and somebody is now saying forgery, Nigerian thing, the one of fraud is already, is no longer in debate, that Nigerians are fraudsters because there could be one hush puppy there, or was the one that duped the Brazilian bank. I will remember his name as I speak along. These are things that have gone out there to ruin our collective reputation. And so Ninas is saying that there is something we can do that can arrest that situation before it begets even more collective calamity. The Constitution of Nigeria, for everybody that is pointing Tinubu. You remember the prostitute that was to be stoned, and the Christ that says, he amongst you who is without a sin should cast the first stone. Let nobody understand this broadcast as meaning any kind of support for Tinubu and his malfeasances. We were the first to raise the alarm in the international circuit that our constitution, the constitution of Nigeria, as disputed as it is, requires 25% in the Federal Capital Territory for one to become president, and that under the Electoral Act prevailing, that INEC, had no discretion to shift the goalposts on election day in terms of electronic transmission of results. We were the first to say that even before Lai Mohammed got to Washington to lie to them that Abuja is no longer the requirement of Abuja. 25% is that Abuja is just another state, which the Court of Appeal, unfortunately, has joined, like towing the line. That's on one side. On the second, remember that by a declaration we made on June the 12th, we had taken an advertorial in the Guardian newspaper. I think it was published on the 14th of June in 2023. Ninas did say that the presidential election of February 25, 2023 ended inconclusive, was still ongoing because of the things that had emerged from it, and that the winner declared that the outcome is illegitimate in the manner INEC carried on, and therefore that this period is an interregnum for Nigeria. Interregnum meaning a period without legitimate government. So there are three things we have said as formally as it can be said. Diplomats took it to their home government, and anybody who goes to the 14 June edition 2023 of Guardian newspaper will see the advertorial of that global caveat. It was a global caveat telling the international community that yes, Nigeria had an election, yes, somebody had been declared the winner of it, but that under our constitution and the laws that are supposed to regulate, that no winner has emerged such as to be vested with authority to govern. They've assumed power. That's a different subject matter altogether. Assumption of power and investiture of authority. Now, back to the question of what is the connection? How has this character of fraud, character of forgery, character of drug, character of identity theft, how has it become our reputation? We have, for every finger pointing at the Tinubu that is on the spot now, the Tinubu that is in the in the vortex of it at the moment, there are four fingers pointing back at anybody who is not already in the campaign to take down the foundational fraud upon which we are building, the fraud of the Constitution of Nigeria 1999. That Constitution for over 24 years, from the first day it was imposed, we raised the issue that this is a forgery, this is a fraud. So those who cling on to that Constitution as basis of union, as basis of democracy, as basis of rule of law, on one hand, and then use the other hand to begin to point at a product of that institutional arrangement to be a fraud, to operate in forgery, to operate in identity theft. That is what that Constitution is. Tinubu is the fruit we have collectively produced from the constitutional tree we planted. He is just one of the millions of people operating in what that Constitution mandates. The Constitution of Nigeria is a fraud. The Constitution of Nigeria is a forgery. The Constitution of Nigeria is guilty of identity theft. Just like we hear from Chicago. What do we mean? We became a country. We became one political union as a federation. 6 years into our independence, something went wrong, and the constitutions that made us, the negotiated constitutions that made us a federation, got toppled. Those who toppled it imposed unitary arrangements. But they stole our identity as a federation to implant on that unitary constitutional arrangement. And so today, we have a constitution that begins the lie in its preamble by saying that we, the people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, claiming that we are a federation, whereas we ceased to be a federation from that point in 1966-67, the constitution got truncated, particularly from the May 27, 1967, when the 4 regions got broken into 12 states by Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon and his confederates in the Supreme Military Council of the time. And so the Constitution of Nigeria, by stealing our identity, our original identity is Federation of Nigeria. This constitution that has made us a unitary union stole that identity and implanted on it, and so passers-by, the international community, will think that we're a federation because they say Federal Republic of Nigeria. So there's identity theft of the worst order enacted by that constitution. And so, if the Constitution of Nigeria is a forgery, like we have shown 1,000,000 times, go to even the rural places now and ask them what the problem of Nigeria is, they will tell you what it is. That's the Constitution. And if it is alleged that we, the owners of the sovereignties, that's we, the peoples of Nigeria, having solemnly and firmly and solemnly resolved to live in unity as one indivisible and indissoluble, do hereby make and give unto ourselves the following constitution. A lie that is known to the authors to be a lie, Absalom Abubakar and all of those who have sworn to defend and uphold that lie since 1999. And so this the candidates of the other parties that are now raising a hue and cry, chasing around Bola Tinubu for forgery, they all subscribe to that forgery called the 1999 Constitution. They all subscribe to that fraud called 1999 Constitution. They all subscribe to that fraud that stole our identity as a federation and implanted on a unitary union. To that extent, there is no difference between them. There's no difference between this Atiku Abubakar of PDP and Peter Obi of Labour Party. No difference with the Tinubu, because they all very equally subscribe to that constitution. Tinubu just happened to be the smarter of them. I mean, he outsmarted them in the criminality of going to run Nigeria with that constitution. It is a criminality in which they are all co-participants, equal members of the gang operating Nigeria under that constitution. And so let nobody imagine that because Tinubu's own is boss now, he has become anybody who subscribes to that constitution is no different from that Tinubu in all respects, since that constitution is guilty of forgery. That constitution is guilty of fraud. That constitution is guilty of identity theft. You subscribe to it and you want to make it. You want to present yourself as the virgin in the brothel that has produced all of you. PDP, APC, Labour Party. You all subscribe to the 1999 Constitution. Don't come pontificating any differently. And so, what can the rest of us do? Because no matter what the courts do, it is the responsibility to repudiate that reputation in a manner that the international community can see. falls back on all of us. And NINAS has a proposition for how we can repudiate those tags effectively. That proposition is this. This constitution that mandated this election, that has produced this kind of outcome that's now brought us embarrassment in the international, why can't we, even for the sake of the young people who are going to suffer from that, that damage, that irreparable damage that Tinubu's forgery has brought on all of us in the international circuit? Listen to what has happened in the UK, where nurses that are already employed are being asked to go and are now required to go to write the exams afresh because of one man that wants to be president. Several universities have suspended processing of admission for Nigerian students across the UK, US. And the US authorities say they will now have to vet people coming from Nigeria, particularly students, for involvement in drug. Even the ones who trained, whether you trained in Nigeria or you trained in Harvard or Oxford, if somebody could in Chicago do what was done, as we have seen, who says that those who went to Harvard or Lincoln, wherever, did not, tamper with a few things in the background? And so what we can do is to repudiate Nigerians, those who wish to be separated from that identity that have been inflicted upon us by Bola Tinubu, the president of Nigeria for today. Those who wish to join the task, NINAS invites you to join us to repudiate in real terms that constitution, because all we need to do now is to say we can no longer build on this foundation of falsehood, on this foundation of forgery, on this foundation of fraud, on this foundation of identity theft. As a people, we then insist that we do like South Africa did in 1990 with apartheid constitution. That announcement to begin the constitutional reconstruction of Nigeria must now come. In addition to all the other pressing reasons, this is now an added, emergency, that we must do this so that the international community can see that there's an action we have taken. Because once we do that, first it takes care of the unfinished business of February 25th. The outcome of this election that we shouldn't have embarked upon, this 2023 election that we shouldn't have embarked upon on the basis of that fraud of a constitution. The multitude in their, whatever was their reason, but largely driven by ignorance and emotion, dragged us to election, including the ones who are now shouting about mandate. Both Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi, all of them who dragged us to this election, are equally guilty. And so the rest of us can say, on account of the status, on account of the content, on account of the character of Nigeria defined by that constitution, we now reject that character. We reject the fraud, we reject the forgery, we reject the identity theft inflicted on us by that constitution. If we do that today, the 5-point proposition of NINAS in the December 16, 2020 Constitutional Force Majeure, those 5-point propositions represent what we can do today to let the international community see that we reject that foundational instrument that has produced this fruit. Tinubu is the first fruit, or one of the many fruits of the tree upon which we have anchored all our existence as a political union. If we do that today, that outcome of that election will be rested, because we'll be going into transition. We'll be going into transition to rework the constitutional basis of Nigeria, to remove that fraud from our life, to remove that forgery from our foundation, and to remove that identity theft. If we do not do that, then let nobody come running his mouth that Tinubu did anything wrong. He is what we have become. Tinubu and all of whatever anybody is pointing at now, P2B, listen to it, Atiku, listen to it. All this going around to address a press conference, when you clutch that constitution with all your might, you are as guilty as the one you are pointing. And the rest of us, if we cannot stand up together to reject that constitution for being a fraud, for being a forgery, for stealing our identity as a federation and implanting on a unitary constitution, then even the rest of us are as guilty. All of those who went to vote under that constitution, you are guilty. Of obedient movement, you are guilty. Of articulated lot, you are guilty. All of those who have chosen to build Nigeria and its democracy on a constitution of fraud, on a constitution of forgery, you are all guilty of what you accuse Bola Tinubu of being. He is guilty of it. He's just the product of our collective decision to build our society on such a foundation as that constitution that promote all these negative values. What else do you expect? I think we must act while we can. More damage is loading. More damage is loading, except we wake up and repudiate that identity that has been thrust on us by the actions of one man. We stop here.